Let's have a look then at starting to form a head. And this is a good example. I brought this plant on. This is called the Tsar. This has got a few side shoots growing out, but I'm not too bothered about that. This is quite a strong growing, fast growing plant. Dead leaf there, so I can get rid of that one. So all it is, you get to a point where you're going to see a side shoot coming out, and then you've just got to let that other side shoot grow, and basically your head will form out of this V. And it's just then a question of every second or third break on the main shoots here now, of which there are two, I always do a stop, because you want that then to start splitting out to form the head. Obviously, if you take side shoots out, in fact, I've done it. I've actually cut that one. I've got so many, I forget what I've done sometimes, but I've already stopped that one, and I've already tip stopped this one. So I've got side shoots already breaking out from these nodes here, and I've got side shoots breaking out from these nodes here. Now, on zonals, of course, you've got flowers that break out from generally every other stem, every other node. Not exhaustively, but in general you do. But the fact that I've stopped both of these has enabled another shoot to start breaking out from the other side there. So hopefully we can encourage that one to grow out as well. And that constant stopping will also obviously force more side shoots out from these main stems here. Now I've got some side shoots growing out here. They're not big enough to cut off really, so I'll wait till they've got some substantial growth on them, and then I'll take them out. But this is growing really fast. It's a gold leaf variety, golden bronze leaf. I think that has the potential to be pretty nice. Now with Regals, you have a very different situation, because of course you have flower stems and growth stems grow very separately. And you need to ensure that you're not going to use a flower stem as the main growing point. Now, here is a young Regal standard that I've got. So I had two main growing points on this Regal here. It's a plant called White Chiffon. It's an old, I think it's a Schmidt variety actually. It's one of the old that was used extensively for show work going back in the day. So you can see my main cut there. Now you can see here clearly this one is straighter. If I was to lop that there, this is very dry actually, so I can cut it. This is a bit buckled over, and to begin to straighten that up would be a lot of pulling over. We'll talk about pulling over in a minute. This in a way is going to be much easier just to entice over a little bit. This is far too keeled over to be able to bend that up. I mean, it could be done. I think it's going to be too much effort, and there's no need to do it. And I've got good growth on this one as well. So I'm just literally going to lop this off. There we are. Again, be careful with your knives. I've been doing this for decades, but there we are. I could get 3 or 4 cuttings from this, but I've got plenty of them, so I don't need to. So for a Regal, you need to differentiate between the growth stems and the flower stems. I now need to tidy this up. But you can see why I've chosen that straighter stem. And the reason we're doing this is because this plant is still quite young, but this is pretty much straight. There we are. I'm going to take these side shoots off from down here. There's a good bit of growth on this here at the moment, but you can see that is already relatively straight. So there we are. I've taken that down to just those two. Now this is not the head. I still need one of these to grow on really fast, and that's what will form the stem. One of these will carry on to form the stem. And as I said, with Regals, it is a bit more work. But what I'm going to do now, that leaf is pretty pale, so there's not much energy going into that. I'm going to move this over, but we can tie that in just to pull it back to straighten it up. And this is the issue with Regals. It does take a little bit more time in training them through, because all that Regals are designed to do is grow on as bush plants. But there we are, I've tied that back through. I don't need to tie that in because the pulling this across has done the trick on that. Right, so over time, one of these will grow faster, and the faster one that grows will be the one that I choose as the main stem. But I'm going to leave that now for there. That's quite dry, so they'll seal off very quickly. And there we are, that's sort of developing a young Regal. Right, so I think that's enough sort of technical information. What I'll do, I'll just take the camera off and we'll have a look at a few of my other Regals that I've got going. There will be some links to other videos that I've got on my own channel, just so that you can see what's going on. But I'll take the camera off and we'll have a little look round now. Right, now one of the successes that I have had is with some Regals this year. I've got a Delhi. This was cut back hard about a month or so ago. That's got a good long stem on it that's at least 2 foot, 60 centimetres. It's in an 8-inch pot. Got a smaller one there. I think is that Margaret Thorpe? No, it's Judith Thorpe. I know I've got one of the others. But they're growing on. They're doing very well. Now, in terms of youngsters, this is Rushmore Cyril Clark. Just have a look at that in detail. Tricolour. I've done tricolours in the past, but not sort of dwarf tricolours. So that was doing okay, but again, it's very young. I'm keeping plenty of leaf on it at the moment because I'm just wanting it to grow fast, which it's doing. Got another one there, look. So that's Rushmore Cyril Clark. I've got some very young Chelsea Gems. These are going to be grown on as standards. Let me focus the camera. These are going to be grown on as standards. Side shoot there to come out. These are all cuttings from a plant that I got hold of earlier in the season. Just try to look at the date now. Yeah, back in May. So they're growing on quite nicely. What else we got? There's the plant that I potted on yesterday. Now we've got a pink Dolly Varden here. Now this is in the process of being double stopped. Much like I showed you just earlier. Now you can see the stop that I did there, and I've already stopped the side stem at the very next node because I've seen that I've got 2 breaks coming there. There's 1 break already going there, and that's already split to make another stem break the other side. So that's exactly what I'm wanting. So I'm cutting this one back relatively hard because it's quite a big growing plant, but I'm hopeful that I can get something fairly decent from that. That's already in an 8-inch clay pot. But nothing more will be done with that until next season now, except the stopping. So what else we got? This is an old plant. I got a Deanna Westwood, one of Brian West's plant. These are tidy up actually. Forgive the dead blooms on it. Don't get time to do everything. But I've decided to grow that on as a bit of a multi-stemmer. There's some good stems coming up at the base. Grows like a weed for me, that one. We've got some young Regals here that are developing. Look, the young Regal standards here. That's one of my own, actually. It's an unnamed variety. But again, developing a good head. We've got these are Elsie Taylor's, another one of mine. Need to clean up, but growing fairly well. They're all in 6-inch pots. We've got a Prim. This is a Stella called Prim, and this is done very well. I repotted this earlier in the season. A couple of yellowing leaves, primarily because I've probably not watered it enough. Nothing wrong with it though. I repotted it back in, I think it was about May time, and there's no mess in the pot. It's as clean as a whistle. We've got others here. This is a Stella. This was potted up more recently, and it's Rushmore Filigree. Quite like that. It's very vibrant white. Talking of Adenjo Tintomara, here is a standard of it, or normal standard. This actually needs a bit of work because I've obviously not been paying attention. But because this grows so fast, I need to do some work on that and take the tips out just to start to develop the head. Going against my own teachings on that because I've not been cutting that back, but it should be cut back. A right set of plants here. This is my own berry zest. standard. I think I've done work on this on my own channel, cutting it back and things like that. But this is developing quite nicely now. I've got it into a bigger pot. I haven't been repotted in ages, actually. But I've repotted it now, and it's really growing quite fast. It will get another trim before the autumn to compact it back a bit. But I'm hopeful that I can get that to the show next year. Got some other young standards. That Bushfire desperately needs potting up. But you can see here, this needs a little bit of work to just try and straighten the stem a bit. But I'm not overly bothered, to be honest, with some of them because, you know, I think it's very ornamental. I think it looked very good. We got our Sophie Dumaresque. This is a new young version of this I've got that I'm going to grow as a multi-stem. It's got lots of side shoots coming out, and I'm just going to grow them on. It's very young, though. You may remember the scenario with my old Sophie Dumaresque. I'm not going to dwell on that. This is my cutback butterfly Brian West, which I just did at the weekend. Over here, now actually down there is Nicola Buck. This is a large growing Regal, does very well, good plant. And I've got another one here. And we got exactly the same scenario where, like the other one, I've taken out the other side shoot from there and I'm growing this shoot out to form the sort of part of the head. It'll need some side shoots still taken out because I want to get some more height on it. But I'm pulling that across, look, using a stake to really pull that stem across to make it straight. Another standard that I've got here is Stat Burn. All of these side shoots are poking out. I'll put a link to the video that I did cutting this back on my own channel. But all these little side shoots have all burst through now, done very well. Another Regal standard behind, Harvest Moon, that's doing very well. It's got a nice straight stem, actually. I haven't mentioned, well, I have in the past, but I haven't mentioned that certainly with Regals, you will always get a lot of root breaks coming through, and providing they're not deformed, meaning that you've got leaf gall. If they're not deformed, you can literally pull them up and grow them on as the plant. But if they're at all deformed, it means they've probably got leaf gall, in which case, if you want to use that plant, never use it for cuttings, but I mean, you can potentially keep it, but that's entirely up to you. We're not going to go into too much about leaf gall at this point. Another one here, slightly slower growing variety, another bicolour, Maxine Collie, lovely cherry red blooms that's got. Here are all the cuttings that we took the other day that you saw earlier. So there we are. I sincerely hope that that's given you a bit of background of standards. Now, there are other videos that I've done in the past about standards, so you're quite welcome to have a look at that. They're on a separate playlist. I'll put a link to the playlist up there now. But I just wanted to, I haven't done a great deal about standards in sort of recent times. So I've got loads and loads of them. So if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. And I hope that that's given you a decent bit of background right through from taking cuttings right through to the start of the development of the head. So that's just about it from me today. I've got a few other bits and pieces coming up, so I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.